Warfare has been redefined in the last 2 years. Drones, new generation missiles, sensors, evolving tactics. India clearly faces new challenges. Are we responsive enough and quick enough to meet these evolving challenges? Are budgetary allocations sufficient? And does domestic industry in our country have the cutting-edge prowess to deliver world-class solutions for the Indian Armed Forces? Now, this session looks at the state of defense today and where we are headed by 2030. We've got a wonderful panel with us, several individuals very, very closely associated with different aspects of defense in our country. Air Marshal Ashutosh Dixit, Deputy Chief of Air Staff. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. Samir Kamat, Chairperson of DRDO. Ashish Rajvanshi, CEO Defence and Aerospace at the Adani Group. And Arun Ramchandani, Head of Defence at Larsen Toubro. Thank you all very much for being with us. Air Marshal, let me come to you first. Warfare has changed in a way that a lot of us would never have thought possible in just the last couple of years. We've seen the impact of drones in the Russia-Ukraine war. We've seen what's taking place off the coast of Yemen right now. Does domestic industry in India have the ability, is it nimble enough to understand what these technologies are all about and give us solutions?
Thank you, Vishnu. We have great respect for our private sector. See, we have been doing business for very long time with DPSUs, which is changing. And the first example which I want to give you is, if you just look to my left, you will see two private sector people here, and DPSUs are in the audience. See, the nimbleness which is required to get the newest technologies into armed forces, in our services and their operationalization. That can only happen if private sector comes in. They will have to find a niche area where they can work. They will have to invest upfront so that means, like you are saying, everybody can see in what manner, in what path the technology is going. So they have to just analyze that, and means to answer your question in a simple manner, we are very confident, and we are showing the way. Like Raksha Mantri had said in the morning that if they walk 100 steps, we will walk 1,000 steps.
Mr. Kamat, you know, when it comes to defense opportunities and the public sector working with the private sector, there's the entire issue of the transfer of proprietary technology, knowledge, and this fulfills several requirements. A, we are a growing system. We need to expand the availability of systems. We need to open up new facilities for manufacture. How willing is the DRDO to transfer state-of-the-art technology to private industry? We've seen some excellent examples of this working recently. For example, the VSHORAD system. We're also looking very closely at the next generation of drone launch weaponry as well. These are some examples of weapon systems. But in terms of the partnership and how manufacture can be stepped up, could you share your thoughts?
So in DRDO, we don't distinguish between private sector and public sector. We give equal opportunity to both. Our technologies are open. We have done so far 1,700 plus TOTs, both to private sector as well as public sector. Our patents are open to both private sector and public sector. And in fact, I can say that out of our 1,700 TOTs, 80 to 90% are to the private sector. So I don't see any, in fact, I can say I agree with what Air Marshal Dixit said, that the private sector is now contributing fully to the defense ecosystem, but we need to bring in more startups where the nimbleness will come. See, the larger companies can play a role in integrating larger systems, but the nimbleness will come from smaller companies. So we have to get more MSMEs and startups to look at these changing technologies. and later that can be acquired by the larger companies and provide support over the entire life cycle. So we need a combination of large companies, startups and MSMEs contributing equally. Only then will we reach a situation which currently, say, exists in the United States or China.
You know, Mr. Kamat, since we do have you here, you've been also very closely watching all of these developments around the world in terms of new technologies. The DRDO and the Indian defense setup has invested a lot in legacy solutions, but all of a sudden things are changing. How much of your time goes in looking at the nature of the threats changing, new ideas, new concepts, and seeing what India can do to respond to these?
So we spend considerable amount of time looking at what are the emerging technologies. We have set up a group which is addressing what technologies among them will be suitable for us. We are looking at working with our academia as well as startups, using mechanisms as centers of excellence, which we have set up in 15 academic institutions. We have started a scheme called Technology Development Fund, where we are now introduced a scheme which can take up high-end research, which can have a possibility of failure. Earlier, we were only using the Technology Development Fund to support indigenization. So these were older technologies which existed elsewhere. You were just funding a private sector company to make it indigenously. But now, Raksha Mantri has given us the go-ahead to invest in higher cutting-edge technologies, which there is a possibility that some failures can occur too.
Yeah. Ashish, one of the Star Wars movies was called The Drone Wars. It's actually amongst us. When we talk about drones, we talk about all sorts of capability, all sorts of systems, and all sorts of costs. The Adani Group is looking very closely at drones, presently and in the future. Could you look at some of the solutions which exist presently in India? Because that really builds to what we're trying to do, Atmanirbharta.
So see, I was reading an article yesterday which came from one of the keynote professors in the US. And what he mentioned was one of the key learnings which came out of Russia, Ukraine, and Israel, Hamas, is we cannot be looking at the war in the same legacy manner, what it used to be over the last many decades. And one of the examples which he quoted was the era of the helicopters is over. And it's a big statement which came out in the media, that there were more than 100 helicopters which were shot down by drones in the short-range air defense in Russia, Ukraine, and more than 60 plus on the Ukraine side. So I think we also have to go back to the whiteboard and see how the future is going to look like. One is around miniaturization and the use of some of these technologies, which is a combination of drones plus short-range air defense plus ammunitions. And the second more important part is the use of data, because end of the day, we are going to move from the kinetic war to information warfare. And what we as a country, what we as a company are also trying to do is how do we continue to transition, because every platform is a carrier of information. And if I have to go back to my customer, Air Force or Army, I cannot be talking about just, let me give you this platform or that platform. I need to give him insights which are going to help him take the right decisions. So talk about drones, talk about PGMs, talk about short-range air defense, talk about data analytics and AI/ML. I think this is working along with DRDO, which is going to define the future of the warfare rather than the legacy systems.
Yeah. Mr. Ramchandani, before we talk about the brilliant work that Larsen and Toubro has been doing over the years, would you like to tell us a little bit about how you see naval warfare evolving? Just in the last 48 hours, we've seen yet another major Russian surface combatant being sunk by drones. Do we have the ability to, I won't use the word replicate because we have our own solutions, but do we have the thinking and the technological ability to develop next generation naval solutions in the field of drones?
So certainly we do have the capabilities. In fact, at L&T, we have been working for quite some time now on autonomous underwater systems and underwater communication, underwater detection. So these are all areas which are the elements of the technology which are required for autonomous systems of the future. So at the naval level, at one end we are looking at our fleet expansion, because when we compare ourselves with some of our neighbors, there is a need for expanding with the next generation fleet, and a lot of work is going on in that direction. At the other end, there is the emerging technologies that we need to look at, and we have our eye on that. We are looking at how that can be deployed, the manned, unmanned teaming, the autonomous systems, the directed energy weapons which can be deployed on platforms. All of these technologies are sharply on focus, and in some places we work with DRDO on that, some places we work with the user. We are experimenting on our own on some of these technologies, and I believe that we are pretty much aware of what is required, and we are working in that direction.
Yeah. Air Marshal, Mr. Ramchandani mentioned the words man-unmanned teaming. That is going to be my next question to you. That's also part of what I call the drone wars. It is the evolution of air warfare. It's something that India is investing in presently. We are also investing in stealth technologies. The concern is that we are perhaps a bit late in the induction of stealth platforms. However, since this is a session that looks ahead, looks forward, could you give us an idea of how stealth and manned-unmanned teaming is essential for the future of your fighter operations?
Yeah, stealth is sensor independence. Basically, no sensor can detect me, and I should be able to become sort of unseen. And if nobody sees me, then I will be able to do the job of war fighting in a better manner. So that is what is the idea behind stealth. You may have said it correctly that we are slightly late, but the technology is very deep. It is completely different way of looking at, let's say, right from metal cutting, how to join them together, what kind of antennas we are going to put inside. So all that has taken a long time, and we are doing this independently because nobody else is going to give it to you. That has been our challenge, but I think we are there now, and shortly we should be launching the main project. Now, stealth, when it happens, the weapon carriage capacity in the stealth platform is not very large. So because of which we must have some unmanned element ahead of him, which are controlled by this stealth aircraft, and it goes ahead, and it's a well-established concept, more theoretical right now. It is slowly getting into practice, and means we have some kind of confidential projects going to address this aspect. One more point which I want to make is, any new technology has got three actually aspects. One is that the technology per se, like drone, it can go and attack. Simultaneously, some people, some industry should also work on sensors which can detect, and also how to neutralize it. So actually one area generates 3 or 4 different allied areas which also needs to be worked on together. So this has been, I keep telling this because it is not only drone. So it is 3 or 4 allied technology which needs to be developed together.
Mr. Kamat, one of the areas where India has really developed over the last decade is in sensor technology. If you look at an entire generation of air search radars, if you're looking at surface-to-air missile systems, not just the missiles but also the sensors which detect incoming threats, we have a policy of tiered defense, and we have sensors which have really evolved. Could you tell us the significance of this as we look at air defense of our country?
As the technology advances. Air Marshal mentioned about stealth platforms. So you have to develop now sensors which can detect the stealth aircrafts. You also now, as the missile technology moves towards the hypersonic cruise missiles and hypersonic glide missiles, you will have to develop sensors which can detect these missiles so that you can shoot them down. So it's a constant, I would say, a cat and mouse game. As the platform technology increases, so does your sensor technology necessarily have to increase to help you protect against these platforms. So drones, as Air Marshal mentioned, you have to now work on technologies which can detect drones which have very low signatures, both radar as well as audio signatures. So we have to now develop new sensors which can detect drone easily, and we have to work on technologies which can neutralize these drones. I'm sure in the next 3-4 years, we are all praising drones today, but you will see in next 3-4 years, you will have enough sensor technology which can help you detect and neutralize them.
Yeah, no, it's a constant battle,
Yeah.
as it were, back and forth. Mr. Ramchandani, China is building ships at a pace that the world has never seen before. The tonnage which they're putting out at sea, it indicates a huge expense which they're willing to actually put in. One of the concerns of the domestic shipbuilding industry is that orders aren't placed fast enough. I mean, our legacy process of orders has been slow, let's face it. But how do we have capacity in this country which really does need to translate into ships being built? And how do we have the technological prowess, not least of all at L&T?
So shipbuilding is industry by itself. It has its own complexities, and it is very clear that in terms of shipbuilding capacities today, India is far behind that of China. So really, if we have to leapfrog our curve, it's the deployment of better construction technologies which will enable us to get better yield from the capacities that we have. And that's something that we are focusing on, the deployment of Industry 4.0 or Shipbuilding 4.0 to scale up the speed of shipbuilding. That's a focus area for us. Shipbuilding also requires a large ecosystem of equipment manufacture and weapon manufacture. And that ecosystem is being slowly built in the country, because any platform that you build is actually an accumulation of very complex equipment and weapons. And your ability to source these and to integrate these on platforms is the other challenge. So we are looking at how we can scale up these aspects also. Some of these need to be done even at a global scale, There is no point in trying to build every equipment on a ship. There are valve companies all over the world, and it is best that you can get into the global supply chain and access that so that you can build your platforms faster. So I would say that there are a few things that need to be done. The acquisition process needs to be speeded up. There are new yards coming up also in the private sector. It will, of course, take some time to mature. But how can we harness the entire shipbuilding capacity that is available in the nation? How can, many times there is a skewed load distribution.
Yes.
So you would find some shipyards have swollen order in books, and then you will find some shipyards where the order book is very thin. So probably ensuring that the capacity kind of goes to where, the ability to deliver exists, building a complete supporting ecosystem around it. All of this is required to enable us to scale up our fleet fast enough. I think the Navy is very cognizant of that. They are looking at, how we can scale up our fleets very quickly. And the capabilities exist. We need to deploy better technologies in our construction methodologies. And I think that would bring about the transformation.
Yeah. Ashish, one of the big investments of the Adani Group recently is in ammunition manufacture. And it's not just ammunition, is it? What was opened in Kanpur recently has very much the future in mind, because what you manufacture now might meet requirements now, but you've got a scalable manufacturing unit, and you've got physical access to areas you can build up in the future as well. As we talk about new technology, how important is it for us to get the basics right? And by that, ammunition.
See, this is one area which was prioritized many years back, both by the forces and the industry, that over the last 75 years, what we have seen is, even though a lot of good work which has happened in the public sector is important, but the capacity requirements which are there going forward for the forces are not getting met. So the decision within Adani was, how can we take this as an investment? And this was one question which Army Chief actually asked me on the day of the inauguration, that Ashish, do you have an order? And I told him, no, this facility has been built on trust.
Right.
And we know that there's a capacity requirement, there's a capability requirement in the country. And see, again, goes back to the fundamentals of ammunition. Let's see what's happening around. We are talking about now no longer a 15 days war. We are talking about a war which has stretched over 2 years in the Eastern Europe. And one of the biggest demands which is coming globally is actually about 155 mm artillery, for example. Yeah? We are talking about Israel-Hamas. Yeah? We are talking about the conflicts in Eastern Africa. And the underlying foundation of sustaining any of these conflicts is ammunition. You may have world-class platforms, but if you don't have ammunition to fire, doesn't matter small caliber, medium caliber, large caliber, yeah, it's a sitting duck going waste. So the point on having the foundation, before we talk about the drone technology, the ISR, but if my frontline soldiers don't have the small arms, yeah, they don't have the ammunition, they don't have the basic counter-drone systems, which are actually going to stop some of these, yeah, we can't talk about artificial intelligence-based platforms in the future. Yeah. So it's a two-pronged approach within Adani. One, we have to meet the immediate needs of the forces, but how do we continue to not lose direction of 2030, 2035 in terms of future of warfare?
Yeah. The entire concept of war wastage reserve seems to have changed completely on the basis of what we've seen. Air Marshal, we're talking about the future, but it's also equally important to upgrade legacy systems. How is the Indian Air Force committed to that?
Yeah. See, we have various surface systems and a lot of aircraft. Means all the aircraft which we are holding, we have been upgrading them. We started with the MiG-21, Jaguar, MiG-29, Mirage 2000, and now we are embarking on a very ambitious project of indigenous upgrade of Su-30. Recently it was in the news, and that we are going to do with HAL, and close to about 40% work share is going to go with private sector. Now upgrade means infusion of new capabilities, new weapon systems, new sensors, and now we are also looking at can we put some kind of edge computing, AI capability in that. These capacities were not available when we did previous upgrades, but now when we are going to do that, I think this new technologies I'm able to get a chance to infuse. So my lot of legacy or obsolete systems which are there, they go away. See, aircraft, any airframe has got about 40 years of life. We also enhance that life. Sometimes we have gone up to 50 years because the machine is capable. So upgrade is a very important piece of this whole puzzle, because my people are trained, I have got all the facilities available, so investment also is under control. So because of which upgrade, and we will continuously look at upgrade whenever need arises to infusion of new technologies or installation of new weapons, we will go in for upgrade.
And Mr. Kamat, when one talks about upgrade, India now seems to be reasonably well placed to ensure the upgrade of legacy systems. If you look at some new sensors we've built, for example, the Uttam radar, it's a new radar. It gives the Tejas a lot of potential. It replaces the existing radar. It can be scaled up for the Su-30, probably will be scaled up for the Sukhoi 30. The T-90 tanks we have, we now know that they need to be much more protected by active protection systems. These are just two ideas which come off the top of my head. There are so many others. How is this major work for DRDO in terms of making old systems relevant?
So it's an important part of our portfolio. We are part of the Sukhoi upgrade, both for the airframe as well as for the engines. So it's going to be an important role because we have invested so much money in these legacy platforms. You have to be able to sustain it and improve it over the course of time. So it's a very important part of our portfolio. I would say 20 to 30% of our effort goes in these kind of projects.
Well, I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us on this first session. And I think it's an important discussion and a serious discussion which looks at the opportunities which actually exist in India, public-private working together in so many different levels. It is an exciting future, but the challenges, I think nobody over here would doubt, are absolutely immense. Thank you once again.
Thank you.